Municipal Code of the City of Red Lodge, Montana, to provide a date for the appointment of city officers not otherwise provided for, and amending Municipal Code Title I, Chapter 5. So this is a result of work that research that our city attorney did following the meeting of August 10th, where we opened a number of questions. And what was found was that an Ordinance 732 that was approved in 1985 was outdated and obsolete because of Montana code called something about, sorry, I don't have it in front of me, 39-2-910, basically stating that employees or contractors that are employees cannot be terminated without just cause. So in total, Ordinance 732 does not state anything else other than that the mayor should appoint with approval or consent of the council the continuation of city employee department heads annually. So in other words, there's no rhyme or reason for there to be on the agenda an approval for the continuation or termination of employees. It would be outside of the ordinance, the Montana code.
Anything to add, Dennison?
Mayor, members of the city council, no, Your Honor.
Thank you. Discussion at the table.
Are we continuing to utilize the term officers in the amendment or the cancellation or in any of this?
It's just completely gone.
The word officers is gone.
The whole ordinance, 732, is completely gone. I had a question that may be related to that, Pete. I was wondering if, I understand that the mayor appoints other committee members, or board members, not necessarily at the beginning of the year annually, but as it's needed. So I wondered how that would be provided for, if there's something in our code that needs to state or address that.
Dennison?
Mayor, members of the city council, there's a lot of provisions that talk about the appointment of board members, council members. The city ordinance that is in discussion today simply refers to city ordinance that requires every year the department heads to come before the city council and be reappointed. As the city council member discussed, it is in conflict with the statutes that require just cause to terminate any type of employment. And so there is a conflict between the state statutes and the city ordinance as it is in the books. And that's the only thing that the city ordinance discusses. The appointment of additional board members and city council members, that's already provided for, and that would not be altered by this. Thank you.
Jody?
My understanding when I read what our city attorney sent us was that this really hasn't happened in the past couple of years because they've gotten around or away from it by having the department heads be on this contract. And the contract does not go before the city council to be approved because you're beholden to the contract. Is that correct? So it's kind of a moot point because we haven't used it for however long, because the people who now want to be an employee can be an employee, and then if you have a contract, you know, city council, it's just renewing the contract, or if things don't work out, you buy them out. Correct?
Right.
Is that right?
And we have done that the first meeting of each year.
Oh, you have?
Since I've been here.
Okay. I guess
so
it just
the
sounded like we
department
weren't
heads
really
that
doing.
weren't contracts.
Okay.
So the police chief.
Okay.
And I hope James.
Okay.
Yeah, so we would do
Oh,
that.
so there were still some that were doing that. Okay.
Dave?
I appreciated the memo that the city attorney prepared for us and set out in the latter part of August. I don't know that I read the language that's on the books quite the same way, because this, as I read 155, it doesn't talk at all about employment, which is what the Montana Code annotated addresses. It talks about a title of department head, and I think it's completely probable or possible for somebody to continue in their employment without necessarily having the title of department head that's there. And as I go back and look at what was the intent in the history, I think that part of that was to have the mayor have the ability to dictate the department heads that he wanted to work with. So I guess my first issue or concern is I don't necessarily, in my reading, and I'm not an attorney, but I don't read it as a conflict. I read it as discussing two entirely different things. The second concern that I have is that aside from the letter which we all received, the first I heard about this was actually when this was presented to a member of the council and asked if they would bring it forth and present it to the council. And in my opinion, that council member correctly and professionally declined and responded back. And I tend to agree with that because when I read the job description of the council, by definition, we are the governing body. That means that we discuss whether an ordinance is necessary. We discuss what we'd like that ordinance to look like. And then we hear what each other has to say about it. And then we go build an ordinance that meets that requirements. And hopefully we read it a couple times, improve it with different input from our fellow council members, and we go. And so I have a little bit of a concern when the first time that we have an opportunity to discuss it as a council, and this is the first meeting that's happened since this was presented, we're presented with a ready-built solution that was put together with zero council as a body input.
Teresa.
So I'd like to address Dave's concerns. This is not replacing, there is nothing replacing 732. It simply states that 732 is superseded by 392910 at the state level and renders this obsolete. So we're not replacing it, and anybody on council is more than free to come forward to say that we believe we need and discuss a different ordinance. That's the only thing in 732. Now, the only question I had was related to Pete, and I think it's relevant still. What is meant by officers, right? Are those department heads specifically, or what is meant by officers?
Dennison.
Mayor, members of the city council, to address some of the concerns voiced by one of the members of the city council here today, I would refer the city council member to a couple of Supreme Court opinions that talk about this exact issue. It's on page, I didn't number my pages, it's the last page of the memo. The first paragraph that talks about the Montana Supreme Court has held that it would be a constructive termination if somebody was demoted, and a final and absolute termination from a managerial position, especially followed by an offer of an inferior position, is a constructive termination under the Wrongful Discharge of Employment Act. And so that would be the same as a discharge and termination. The second point I believe that the city council member also discussed was, I believe the discussion was concerning the difference between the city council's position and the city attorney's position. I've told everybody this. My position is not to dictate what is provided for, what gets enacted. My position is simply to dictate or tell informed questions on what might be a conflict with statutes, and then give suggestions on how to proceed. It looks like throughout this that the ordinance that is on the books is a direct conflict with the state statutes and could provide for significant liabilities to the city. But obviously it's the city council if they want to go forward with it or not. Another discussion point that was discussed by another member of the city council was concerning the definition of officers of the city. That is a two-part question. The first part is, by statute, there's very specific positions that are city officers. And there's very specific positions. And then the second part is, there's also, one can be a city officer based on the duties and responsibilities that they have too. And so a city officer is kind of defined by state statute and what it entails. hopefully that helps a little.
Great.
Dennison, do you by chance off the top of your head know what those specific positions are? So mine comes city clerk, but I'm curious, if you, and I'm looking in the background, but if you had it off the top of your, and if you don't, that's okay too. It'd make life easier.
Mayor, members of city council, I can guess. I do not have it right off the top of my head. However, I did look into this just recently, and I can get a list pretty quickly of who qualifies as a city officer and who does not. It is a very specific list.
All right, I think I found it 7-4, 1 or 2 officers of the city of the second or third class.
More discussion at the table.
I just have one question. If we do away with this, what would then happen with James and with the chief? Would they then just basically become employees? Or are they on a,
They already are.
well, I know, but we're not renewing their every year. They just would become employees and be subject to those requirements.
Right.
You'd have to basically be written up so many times before you would be
Exactly.
follow Montana code.
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other discussion at the table? Tom?
Based on the recommendation of the city attorney, it's pretty clear to me that we simply get rid of this ordinance. It's in conflict with the state. End of discussion as far as I'm concerned.
Any other discussion at the table? Discussion from the public? Yes, Kristen. Same procedure, state your name and your address of your residence, please.
My name is Kristen Cogswell, and my address is 620 19th Street West. Thank you very much for looking at these issues. I appreciate the time that you're taking to make it right, because we don't want to come back here. And we have, 4 or 5 department heads, and it would be nice if we had some consistency, and also if we could kind of take care of some of the concerns that the city employees have, because I think from the meetings I've been to there, they sense, some vulnerability. And so it would be nice to get it right moving forward. So it's kind of a big deal, and I would just hope that you keep in mind what the city charter says, and that whatever you come up with, rather than throwing this ordinance out, work in the context of the city ordinances so that everything is functional as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Carry it forward. You good? Okay, good. Let's move on to Resolution 3585. This is authorizing the submission of a CDBG grant application. Robin, can you give us some background on this?
Sure. My name is Robin Adams. I'm the Workforce Housing Coordinator at the Red Lunch Area Community Foundation, and I'm the $2.5 grant. For some context, so the CDBG CARES Act grant funding, the state of Montana got allocated around $10 million to spend, and it is for coronavirus aid, relief, and recovery. And so eligible activities are public service projects, facilities, community facilities, and housing rehabilitation projects. So our proposed project is for 4 long-term rental units up on the spires. If the foundation could apply directly to CDBG, we would, but it's funding that is allocated just for cities, counties, and towns. So the city of Red Lodge is the direct applicant, but you can designate the foundation as a subrecipient if you're awarded funds. Since it's CARES Act funding, usually CDBG has a match requirement. This pot of money does not. And so our total budget of what we're looking at for these long-term rental units, even though it doesn't require a match, we're actually providing a 51% match. Total project cost is $920,740. We're going to leverage our partnership with Helena Area Habitat for Humanity and Trust Montana, and that is where some of the match funding is coming from, private equity and other sources of grant funding, and then some of it will come from a construction loan that will repay over time from rental income on units. They'll be affordable for people that are making less than 80% of our area median income, but since we get looped into the Billings metro area, for a family size of 4, that means, you know, you could be making around $64,000 and still qualify to live in these units. There'll be 3 bedroom, 1 bath, and the implementation schedule, since the state is trying to get this money spent very quickly because it's COVID aid, it'll be finished within the next 2 years, so by the 4th quarter of December, or of 2022. And how we're tying it back into COVID is basically it boils down to just rising housing prices as a direct result of increased demand due to the pandemic. So since COVID of March 2020, home prices have risen around 30%. And, you know, the purchase price is reflected in the rental price. And due to those costs, we're also seeing increased instances of overcrowding, people living in substandard housing, sometimes no housing. I have a handful of people I know that are living in tents and working in town because they can't find a place to live. So these 4 units could help mitigate some of that impact. And the deadline for this is October 7th. So what you have in front of you, the resolution, is really just an authorization for the mayor to submit the grant. Any questions on any of this? Yeah.
Robin, so the city has to apply for this.
Mm-hmm.
Once, if the city is awarded this grant, then what part does the city play in that after that, or does it go to Habitat and so on too?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Commerce has some template documents and agreements that the city could use to designate us as a subrecipient to receive the funds, and then we would be the ones on the hook for long-term management and overseeing construction and financing.
Before we carry on, we did advertise this as a public hearing also, and so we'll go ahead and hold that now since we have Robin up here.
Right.
And then we'll move it up to the table and we can still ask Robin more questions. So I'll go ahead and open up a public hearing for the resolution 3585, the CDBG grant. I'll open it up to the public. Public comments on the grant? Yes. Yes, please, and your name and your address of your residence, please.
Okay, I'm Joanne Eater. I live at 301 North Word, Red Lodge. And I am on the board of the Red Lodge Area Community Foundation. And I'm also on the Workforce Housing Committee that has worked very hard so far trying to fill the gap in Red Lodge for affordable housing. Any of you who are employers, I know you know that it's difficult to get people to come and work in Red Lodge because there's especially no rental housing available. And what is available is usually short-term. I wanted to just tell you that we've been working very hard on this and we have a track record now. So we have shown that this partnership that Robin was discussing between Trust Montana and Helena Habitat for Humanity has already produced 3 houses, and 3 more are in the process of being built right now for mutual self-help ownership. But there's a crying need, and people who come to our committee have stressed that we really, really need to work on rental housing. So this is an ideal opportunity. It's opportunistic. We have to move fast. I just think it's wonderful that Robin pulled this all together almost overnight to take advantage of this. We have bankers on our committee, and they have said this is the best deal they've heard in years. To be able to build 4 3-bedroom rental units for a loan of approximately $350,000. So it's just unheard of. And it would satisfy a need. And Red Lodge Area Community Foundation is, with the partnership, ready to step in and help organize it. So the city just needs to say, yes, go for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Any other public comment? Any other public comments? Any more public comments? We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. We'll move it up to the table for discussion. Tom?
I'd just like to ask Robin, I mean, I think it's a fantastic thing. It almost seems too good to be true. Will the city need to have some sort of more or less permanent staff to manage this? I mean, we're talking a couple of, at least 2 years, probably 3 years to get these built. How was that handled?
So, you would only need staff to handle the accounting piece to it, which is Lonnie, up until someone is, which you have the choice to designate or not designate us as a subrecipient. Once we get designated and the funds get transferred, that responsibility is on us for overseeing.
When you say us, who do you mean there?
Red Lodge Area Community Foundation.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion at the table? Teresa?
Okay, so I'm only familiar with the last round of CDBG discussions, which resulted in turning it down. But with this, and I know that you're authoring the grant application, and there's a lot of partnership with the city, and it's for a particular project. Is that designated only to that project, or is the CDBG awarded funds still available to other eligible applicants?
So the city, for the CARES Act funding, you can apply for more than one project. They just ask that you prioritize if you are planning on doing
Okay. I'd like to see it secured, that's why I asked.
Mhm.
It's like, we don't want any usurpers.
Jody?
I just was curious, I know you're partnering with Helena Habitat. When the project is done and you have tenants in there, who will be responsible for collecting the rent and making sure the loan is paid off and things like that? Just the logistics of that. Will it be Helena Habitat, or will it be the community foundation, or?
Yeah, that's something we're still in discussion with Habitat. My personal feeling is that we will likely partner with a professional property manager, partly because Helena Habitat is in Helena, so that would be difficult. And then the community foundation, we like being the connectors and making sure that we can fund the project, so we're not necessarily in the business of, managing housing. So yeah, my feeling is that we would partner with professionals to do that.
Dave?
I think I already know the answer to this, but I just want to make sure it's on the record for the public. Earlier you said we are doing a 51% match. You were referring to the foundation, not the city?
Correct.
Correct, 51%.
Mhm.
The other question that I had is maybe partially been addressed. That the only question I had coming into this is, what are the public hearing requirements for this grant? Because I'm aware of the CDBG grants having generally a public hearing. I just want to make sure we're covering your bases. And if I look at the council agenda, both the work session and, it doesn't state that it's a public hearing. So where have we posted it? I just want to make sure that we've got your I's dotted and your T's crossed so that it doesn't get in the way of your money.
Yeah, so usually, typical CDBG public hearing requirements are 2 public hearings. Since this is coronavirus aid, they're making it a little bit easier, more expedited, so we only need to do 1. So the first one actually was held in April at the county, so we're already covered with that. And then the requirement for this is just to have the hearing notice posted on the website, which we put up on Friday. So we're good there.
Thank you.
Any more discussion at the table? Discussion from the public, any more? We'll carry that forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Resolution 3586, this is a water system revenue bond for discussion. Open it up for discussion at the table. James, you want to give us a little background on that?
I really can't. I have not talked to Jim about this one, but I didn't delve too much into it, at this point.
I can talk to them.
You can,
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Lonnie.
So, I'm gonna talk about both of them because they're both.
Sure.
So it was a lot of reading, so I did not print them all these days. So the projects that these 2 resolutions are going to be used for on the water system revenue bonds, the 500,000, that 500,000 is actually, I believe, forgivable once all the terms have been met in our past revenue bonds and projects. We've had that quite a bit. What these 2 resolutions are for the projects, water is going to be replaced, water mains on Hauser, from 13th to 19th Street, on Grant Avenue from 20th to 22nd Street, water and sewer on that one, on 7th Street to Hagen, from Hagen to Broadway, that is a water project. And then on the Bonner Alley between 2nd and 3rd Street, that is a small chunk of sewer. And then also within the water system bond, is replacing the old PRV up on,
Grant.
White
White.
Avenue. So PRV is the pressure reducing valve. So when they did the main project from the water plant into town, can't remember the size of the piping, but it was a big pipe and then they had to reduce it, and the PRV has been there for many, many years and it's starting to fail. So, Jim wanted to get that pushed to get it done. I believe they're starting on Hauser.
That was Grant first, but
On the 20th.
I think it's Hauser. Yeah, it's
They're
Hauser
gonna,
first.
they're gonna start on Hauser between 13th and 19th.
Yeah, they're gonna start putting the temporary waters in, and then from there, I think they're moving to Grant. And then they'll start construction here very soon, and go until weather. So these 2 bonds, we went through Dorsey and Whitney with council and, or bond council. And closing, I believe, on these loans is 28th, I think that's the payment. Okay, done. So,
Discussion at the table. Yes, Teresa.
Well, I was kind of confused without the context to begin with, so I don't know what it was worth for me to read through, but I did have that question about, having been through bond counselor, and I'm glad it's been through that. The projects that you cited, I don't have the CIP document in front of me. Do those map to that?
I believe so. I think Jim, he picked projects that were in the CIP.
Okay,
And I know the one on Grant, that was the one that froze up last year, and those people were, because for some reason, that's a very shallow water main and sewer
okay.
on Grant.
And then does this relate at all to other unknowns surrounding ARPA and any awards?
No.
No.
Not at all?
No.
Any more discussion at the table?
I was, in there, it didn't really say what that loan payment would be. Do you know what that would be? Because it looks like it starts to be paid back in January of 2022.
Yeah, it's gonna be,
And I don't think we have that in the budget.
it's on the water side of it.
Is
The enterprise funds.
Because it says in here we're using resort tax to pay it back.
No, well, so the way they have to write it, because resort tax pays, they have to include that transfer that from water, or from resort tax that goes into water and sewer, that 100,000 and 150. When they do these bonds, they check to make sure that we have the money there, and they take into consideration the transfers.
Okay.
So it's kind of deceiving the way they write that, but it's enterprising funds that repay it. The loan, not, but the way that resort taxes, the transfers are for debt reduction that goes from water, or goes into the water and sewer.
So just to restate what I think I hear you saying, in our resort tax budget, we do have a line item that allows us to transfer from resort tax to the appropriate enterprise funds, and from there, it will go toward payback.
But that won't go up from the 150 and that it's already at 250,000 right now. Okay. Yep. I'm good.
Teresa?
So now, understanding these bonds and the path forward, would we be allowed to put more of the resort tax funding into that enterprise fund, or is it transferable only 100,000 of their cap?
No, you guys, I mean, when we do budgets and stuff, you guys can.
It just happened to be, we had the 100,000 this year as a line.
And that's how it's been for years, but you guys can change that at any point, the council. That's not a set.
Dave?
And just to add a comment to that, we have tried to keep the obligated portion of the resort tax relatively low, because we never know when we'll be hit or hurt. But having said that, we've also, especially after this year's experience, tried to keep that cap up that allows us to take advantage of it if we do have it. But at the same time, I don't want to see this body get in the habit of saying, oh, we expect we're going to get $1.5 million, let's spend $1.5 million. There was a concern when we set up the resort tax of making sure, and it was ultimately decided to put faith in and leave the flexibility for future councils to be able to spend that money. Just the cautionary tale is, don't spend it till you got it.
Do you know, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Do you know what the approximate payment will be?
No, once these are done, then they'll send me an amortization schedule. I haven't seen one yet. But
Bond council doesn't
I mean, they
let us have the money unless we can afford it.
I know, they have the interest rates in there. I was just curious what exactly our semi-annual payments would be. Like 100,000 or.
Usually I don't get those until.
They're so flexible that they don't lock it into a commitment until we're within 30 days of making it happen, or less.
Okay.
Teresa?
I just wonder about, how quickly we need to move on this, having been just introduced it on Friday.
That's one thing about bond resolutions. They kind of have to move quickly because the fact that, we have to close, and then the construction can start, but these have to be approved to get the money.
Still have all the engineering and planning, so, yeah, for next year.
Any other discussion at the table? Discussion from the public? We'll move both of those forward. Are you comfortable with both of them? We pretty much explained both of them at the same time. Yep, okay. Let's move on to the investment grade audit contract.
Courtney on.
Is Courtney on?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
We got it. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm on hotel Wi-Fi, so who knows what's gonna happen. So I wanted to get this. This is just the general contract that the DEQ recommends for investment grade audits. So I just wanted to get sort of this kind of blanket contract to you all. I do want to bring to City Council in a couple weeks a draft of what I've been working on McKinstry with. So I did have one phone conversation with McKinstry, and we went through page by page, and he explained, you know, everything to me, and we highlighted areas, which is what you see. They have sent me an updated draft with their suggestions since then. And then while I'm in Missoula this week, I'll have a meeting with them, sit down and have a meeting with more of the members of McKinstry for some of their suggestions and just kind of finalizing some of that language for this contract to bring in to you all in a couple weeks. But there were a couple of things I mentioned that I would like, you know, City Council, the city's feedback on. One of those being our scope of work. So in the scope of work, I didn't include the library because I know they had a lot of updates, but I did talk to Jody since, and she would like to be included still for some upgrades to their lighting in the library. And then I also included the recycling center because there have been some just really brief conversations about looking into the city taking back over the recycling center and whether or not that happens at all in 5 years and 20 years. The recycling center is still a city building, and I think it'd be worth, you know, to look into seeing if there's anything that we can do to make that building run more efficiently, reduce our emissions, and maybe save some money on that building. The second thing to get feedback on, there's a green highlighted section that said that McKinstry, when the project, the investment grade audit is 30% done, they can provide a report. It's just sort of an update of this is where we are, this is what it looks like. McKinstry said that likely, you know, it's not necessary because we are a smaller city. So the scope isn't as, you know, in depth as it would be for, you know, a city like Missoula. But I wanted to give City Council the option to say, you know, whether they would like that kind of 30% progress report or not, to take it in or to take it out or leave it in.
Thank you. Discussion at the table. Teresa.
So I was wondering if, I thought I read in here that they were, as part of this IGA, going to create another baseline assessment. Is that right, since we already have one?
Yeah, so they'll kind of look more in depth when we have our 2016, and then we wanted, you know, for every like 5 years to look at another assessment, do another assessment and kind of see where we are. I think that's important because some of the data, especially from the 2016 assessment, was incorrectly calculated, I guess. So I think that's really important for me as well, you know, looking into like any future assessments that I might do, or as I'm computing all of these carbon emissions, to have one from McKinstry that I can look at and kind of keep me, I guess, in line and know that I'm making the right calculations.
Right. I remember you did say that the some of the figures from before needed a lot of adjustment. There was something that was overlooked. So would you treat this this new set assessment as the baseline moving forward? I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, so I mean, we can. It would technically be 4 years and not 5 years if this became the new baseline, but I could still do a 5-year baseline. It wouldn't be that difficult, especially with this one done. So, you know, we can keep it. It's definitely going to be more in depth than what I could do. So we can still create a 5-year baseline, since this would technically be in the 4th.
Any more discussion at the table? Dave.
Courtney, thanks for getting us to us in advance. So help me understand, in a couple weeks, you're going to be bringing a draft. Is that action anticipated in 2 weeks, or we'll be able to wait until the regularly scheduled meeting on the first Tuesday of the next month?
No, the action will be at the regular scheduled meeting in October. I just wanted to, I know this is a lot, so I wanted to just introduce you to the contract at this go around and just get some feedback, your initial thoughts. And then in 2 weeks, I'll bring you the draft for further discussion where you can say, no, work on this some more. And then October, I'll bring it for action.
All right, so for specific feedback from us tonight for your preparation of the draft, is it just whether we agree with your inclusion of the recycling center and also the library, or is there another more specific question that you'd like us to provide you input for as you prepare that draft?
Honestly, yeah, just that scope of work. If you think the recycling center is something that we can include, because that's really going to set us up for the rest of the contract, knowing what scope we're going for. And then again, I can't remember what page that was on. Let me look real quick. There's a green highlighted section.
It's on, there's not a number.
Well,
Okay.
Page 15 number 2 process, and then it's 2.2C.
Yeah.
Preliminary analysis of measures. Submit the 30% completion level audit to the entity. So that's really, if you want McKinstry 30% of the way through the project to give you like a progress report just to keep you in tabs. McKinstry, like I said, they don't think that we need it because they'll be communicating with us the whole time. And we're a smaller city, so it's not as involved. But I wanted you to say whether or not, as a city council, you want that report, or if you're okay with just me communicating updates as we go.
Mayor, can we do a straw poll so we can give her that information?
Sure. Who's in favor of getting the 30% report? Tom?
I think we should have it unless it puts a big burden.
Or cost money.
My concern is it costs money, so if we can, not spend the money on it.
Well, yeah, I don't want to spend a lot of money on it, but it would be nice to just be able to see where they're at with it.
I'm comfortable with Courtney's updates. I know she stays really tight with people that she's partnering with.
Yes, and I agree. I feel like Courtney's been really responsive to the sustainability board and with Halver at McKinstry. It's been really great. She's updated us all along the way, and I don't think that would change.
I'm comfortable without the 30% as well, just because that's not free, and so we can save that money for something else.
Okay. Where are you at on?
I've read this several times, at 4.2 payment. Payment to whom, to where? Could someone explain that to me?
Right now, we're talking about the recording. Are you comfortable with having recording?
Yes.
Jody?
I'm comfortable with Courtney.
Okay. You got an okay on that, Courtney?
Okay.
Pete has a question on payment.
I wasn't quite sure what direction money might go.
Which one are you talking about? Where are you?
4.2?
Inventory existing systems and equipment?
I'm not averse to money's flowing. I just wanted to know how this was applicable.
I'm having trouble finding where you're referencing.
Well, then we're not to the point of voting on it, so I will read it again, and I'll send you an email.
Yeah, that sounds good, Pete, and I can clarify that for you. And if I can't, I'll see them tomorrow, so I can ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the section that says section 4.2 payment, because there's another 4.2 within this document as well. So I was looking at the wrong 4.2.
Yeah.
We'll get it. I just want to make sure if money's going out or money's coming in. Thank you.
Courtney, I know this is a devil's advocate or interesting question. What is the argument against including the recycling center?
Well, I'm still pretty new and I don't know a lot of the previous conversations surrounding the recycling center. So, if anyone felt strongly for some reason against it, I mean, like I said, it still is a city facility and our goal is to reduce municipal emissions, and that to me counts even though we have somebody else managing that facility and leasing it. So I personally don't see a negative, but I just wanted to bring that up because it didn't look like it was included in some of the other suggested, like previous reports from the Energy Corps folks, but I did want to address it here.
Courtney and I talked about it. It is a city building, so I think we need to include that in there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Everybody's good with that?
Yeah. It's just that historically, when the energy conservation plan was written up, we had to transfer, the leasing of it. But it is still a city building, and I don't think it would hurt to have it included.
I agree. Everybody good with that?
I am with both of them.
Yeah.
And again, Courtney, thank you for all the rest of the staff. That's how you do it.
I'm trying.
Courtney. Any comments from the public? Yes, Robin.
As the former Energy Corps person, I'll just say very proud of Courtney for taking this concept into very much reality. It's a very complicated process, so yeah, she's been doing a great job. And just wanted to add a comment or a question. Has there been any discussion of including other city-owned buildings that you're leasing? So not just the recycling center, but like the Arts Guild and bowling alley and buildings like that into it?
We haven't discussed that. Very good point.
The campus?
It would have been covered if I asked my normal question of what question would I ask if I was only smart enough to ask it. So, it'd be helpful, Courtney, if we could have a list of the other city-owned leased buildings, just so we could give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and you tell us what the pros are for including them or what the cons are for including them.
Sure. And I have not come across like that list previously. When I kind of jumped in with the sustainability board and trying to fill Robin's big shoes, I've just been kind of rolling off of the list of what I previously have. So I honestly don't know the entire list of city-owned buildings that are being currently leased, but I'll definitely look into it and try to get a list together for a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Any other public comments?
Just on that piece is, I believe those are land leases, not buildings.
Right. Any other public comments? Move forward to the Ordinance 952, amended resort tax administrative ordinance. Tom?
So just quickly, I apologize that you guys got a marked up version of this instead of a final version of it. It was not necessarily meant to give you that full marked up version of the resort tax ordinance. But I do believe we are getting close to being able to give you a full final version of the resort tax ordinance for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Hopefully we have addressed any of the concerns that were raised the last time that we viewed this.
Discussion at the table.
Yes, thank you. I did read through and try to remember all of the different comments from our last discussion, and I know you cleaned up the section about, the number of members on the committee. and there was supposed to be, the change to 2 members of the committee, maybe a non-resident of the city. And I believe that is important, especially when you have business owners that do not live within the city. But what I'd like to see added is that a non-resident member of the committee must at least reside in Carbon County. I would hope so, but let's make it so.
Yeah, that's easy to add.
Okay. Thank you.
I got it.
Okay.
Any other discussion at the table? Discussion from the public. Discussion from the public. Okay, we'll have a clean copy and ready to go with that change.
Can I just make one copy?
Sure.
The comment. The one section you did have highlighted, Tom, on, section 249, that's use of tax money. That was actually the ballot question verbatim, so that one does need to stay at there.
So we messed that up when we did the ballot. I don't know, I've looked at this 4 times, and when I did this last review, I found a couple of things. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen back there that's supposed to be voted, right? So.
How many people look at that?
Yeah, so.
I remember actually commenting on bats previously.
Yeah, it might have been in the original ordinance, so. And then just one comment in terms of resort tax spending, and I think, you know, obviously what we're seeing, fortunately, and I will attest to this, is that I think you'll see some continued resort tax revenue. There was definitely a push when we did this review, was that when we started out and there was big needs in water and sewer, that, you know, a large percentage of the resort tax went to water and sewer. As the resort tax has come up in value, it's a smaller percentage, but there's definitely, when we did this renewal, part of doing the 1% to stormwater was that we would not continue to increase the percentage of the resort tax that went to water and sewer. The comment was we were going to try to bury less of the resort tax underground, knowing that 1%, which will continue to go up as we go up as a percentage, is dedicated towards stormwater, well, which will help water and sewer more than water, but yeah.
Any more discussion from the public? Okay. let's
Thank
take
you.
about a 4-minute break.
Look forward to having this one done.
Yeah.
Thank you again for all your efforts and giving us a couple of reiterations.
Yeah.
I'm still a no on it. It's an emergency. As Paul has said since 1987. And I don't think, that's okay.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of officers.
Larson,
Here.
Kelly,
Here.
Eaton,
Here.
Lyman,
Here.
Ronnie, here, Westwood,
Here.
Whistler. Here.
Minutes of August 10th and 24th.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of August 10th.
Second that.
Teresa seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Kelly,
Yes.
Eaton,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie, yes, Westwood,
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the August 24th.
You need to do August 10th regular, or the regular session.
Oh, sorry. I move to approve the minutes of the regular, August 10th session.
Second that.
Comments? Roll call.
Kelly,
Yes.
Eaton,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie, yes, Westwood,
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
And now I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the August 24th meeting.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Kelly,
Yes.
Eaton,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie, yes, Westwood,
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
Thank you. Warrants payable.
Move to approve warrants payable in the amount of $306,169.53.
Second that.
Discussion.
The only, we included in this was our third payment for the pool. And that was the amount of, I think, $149,000, is that right? $146,000.
And I apologize again from the rest of you, but if you guys want to look at it. We would have had time.
But yeah, that accounted for almost half of it, so. that was good.
Discussion.
Just want to say, I really appreciate the time that Jody and Tom put into reviewing these. It's a lot of work.
What's, I'd just like to say, if any people, citizens look at this monthly warrant, list, it's amazing. We have the big payments, like for the trash pickup and so on, which are pretty usual. Big payments for the, interest and so on. But there's just hundreds of small items that add up. I mean, $9 here, $14 there, but a lot of them. Otherwise, the city couldn't function, the offices and so on. So it's pretty interesting. It really is.
And
Dave?
I'd just like to add, and Lonnie, please correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a copy of those at the desk, and anybody who wants from the city, who wants to come in and review how the public monies are being spent is welcome to do so at any time.
Yep.
Any more comments on warrants payable? Roll call.
Kelly,
Yes.
Eaton,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie, yes, Westwood,
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
Officer reports. Greg, can you give us a report on what's going on in town?
Since July, things have slowed down quite a bit. In terms of contacts and things like that, I don't have any official numbers in front of me right now, but I can certainly get those to you. We just lost our admin assistant, Di. She moved to Florida, and she was normally responsible for doing that, so I do need to get into contact with her and learn how to run those numbers through our computer system.
Denied.
What's that?
Denied. Who let her move?
It certainly was not my decision. She was an absolute asset. And we are gonna miss the heck out of her. damn near impossible to replace, but that guy's terrific. As far as everything else going right now, smooth and steady. Right now, working on a couple of incentive programs for our new hires. The first round of interviews is going to be beginning on September 23rd, and 24th will be the final interview date. We do have actually a very large pool of applicants, many of which are already post-certified officers, which is it's a surprise, and it's also a blessing in terms of the pocketbook. So we will be, I'm currently in the process of putting my interview panel together right now. I'm working with the mayor on that, and I will give you guys updates as that moves along. I would like to see results on that here probably within the next few weeks with the final decision. We do have an officer that gave his notice that he will be leaving the department. He found employment elsewhere and was an excellent officer, and we are going to miss the heck out of him. I'm also looking currently at the possibility of some part-time employment for police, already post-certified applicants. I do have several officers which I've worked closely with for going on the last 15 years, and they are very solid officers, as well as the applicant pool that we have right now. That's all I have. Anything else?
Just like to add my 2 cents that that's a fantastic idea to look at some of those part-times to do that.
Yeah, certainly. As time goes on, it's right now, this is the shortest staff that I've seen the police department in my entire time here. It's incredibly difficult, but I have my captain working very hard on the scheduling, and we do have it figured out to where there won't be any issues with lack of coverage in Red Lodge. We are still patrolling the streets 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That will not change, and I will make sure that does not change. And we have utilized part-time in the past. It's something that is certainly down the road. It hasn't even been discussed currently yet, but it is something to keep in the back of our minds and our current applicant pool. So
I said it's a little bit out of the box, but it could sure help us with a lot of problems that we encounter periodically throughout the year. So
in terms of post-certified officers being recruited as part-time employees, it's not necessarily out of the box. The state of Montana has practiced that before. I don't want it to be mistaken for like part-time officers can replace full-time officers, because that is not the case. But guys, especially with running the department the way it is right now, vacation for my patrolman is an impossibility. Vacation for me is an impossibility, or anybody else for that matter. And I pray to God that nobody gets sick.
I would just offer a counter to that.
Certainly.
And I'll be extreme about it. Mm-hmm. But if somebody were, let's not say drop dead, if somebody were to win the lotto tomorrow, hopefully you, and decide that they were not coming back the next day, we would figure out and we would get by. I have absolute confidence that you would manage. And so, with that in mind, people's health and mental health is very, very important, particularly in the role you're in.
Absolutely.
And so I would say if people need vacation to keep their sanity, we ought to deal with it. We know we deal with it if they won the lotto. Let's figure out how to deal with it now. So
well, hopefully those guys still hold the same passion for law enforcement as they did the time they applied, and decide to continue their career in law enforcement and just be a very rich officer. So, but, God willing. So.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, guys.
Mayor's comments. As we've talked about, water and sewer, they're planning on starting that September 20th, between 13th and 19th on Hauser. They'll start putting in temporary water, and then go as far as the weather allows them to go. If the weather's good, we can continue on with the sewer projects. Cleanup day is October 8th and 9th, and that'll be with Republic Service. After our last meeting where we were discussing special events, I put together a committee of 3 council people to start working on special events. And I have Pete, Kelly, and Jody on that committee, and they've already had a meeting and they had a conference call with some people. And Pete, do you want to fill us in on where you guys are at?
Yeah, we, in response to the overwhelming interest of the community in special events, the mayor created this committee of the three of us, and we had a meeting, and James was fortunate enough and to get a representative from the city of Bozeman to join us on a conference call. Dennis joined us also, and we had a roundtable with this person from Bozeman and got some invaluable tips and ideas about how they run their special events. And the consensus at that particular meeting was to keep this on the front burner. And so what we agreed to do was to meet again and all of us bring 10 ideas each to the next meeting for how we can improve our events for not only the public, but for the commercial interest too. And that meeting is set up for next Monday. We're going to consolidate these 30 contributions, and I assume that some of them will be similar. And once we have that in a cohesive form, we're going to go back to the public in a public meeting and present what we have learned and how it applies to both the residents, the event holders, the retailers, the lessees, the lessors, and the public. And we're going to get feedback from what we have done with those 30 items. And then the committee will again reconvene. And our goal is to have this solidified either in an ordinance or some type of resolution or a conclusion. And I don't want to use those terms too loosely, no later than January, at the latest February.
Thank you, Pete. Also, I want to say that you have the quarterly report from our victim witness program. Tessa does a great job on that. And that is the end of the mayor's comments. We'll open it up for public comments. Anyone may address the council at this time on any topic within the city's jurisdiction, not specifically on this agenda. Once again, state your name, the address of your residence. You'll have 3 minutes. I will open up public comments. Comments from the public. Comments from the public.
Mayor, members of the council, my name is Margie Adams. I live at 314 North Broadway. And I have a question about your committee for special events, and wondering if there will be any openings for members of the public to join that committee as well, members that are not.
This is a comment period, and we'll take that as a comment.
Okay.
You can contact any of the council people that are on that committee.
Okay, it's not been opened up as yet, so I understand. So, all right, thank you. I'd just like to express interest if it does open up to participating. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Public comments? Close public comments. Old business, employee contract, action.
So after receiving this, it's for Lonnie, correct?
Yes.
And you do want to be an employee, non-contract, correct? Okay.
I was just gonna make a motion so we could discuss it, so
I'm sorry.
I'll move to approve a contract for Lonnie as a contracted employee.
Second.
Now we can have a discussion.
No.
What?
Well,
She wants to go back as.
But now we can have a discussion because we've made a motion. So now we can discuss it. And she said, and she wants to be an employee, not a.
Yeah, in your motion, though, you said to put me back as a contract.
I say contract.
Yeah, okay, I'm just starting it, so now we can decide not to, and I'm okay with that.
Do you want to restate that motion so that you're not making her a contract?
Well, I'm happy. I have had conversations with her. the good news is when we asked for the rest of the information that we needed to approve, we did get a job description, which is part of the contract. We did get one for Lonnie. I did not get one for the Public Works Director. But I also have conversation and understand that she wants to be an employee. So, and technically that means let's not take action at all, and your contract will just expire and you'll convert to an employee.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, you made a motion. There was no second.
Right.
Actually, there was.
Okay, there was a second.
Thank you for checking though. Appreciate that.
So you're asking.
So
That's what
okay.
Jensen came up with, this employment would take, switching me now, not waiting until the end of my contract.
Right.
Most employees still sign something in most.
No, because my understanding is just that you're just an employee. You're still, you have the benefits provided by your contract while that's still in place.
It's over. But this puts me back as.
Oh, but you're already over.
Yeah, her contract's already up.
Yeah.
My addendum is still going on, but this will take effect immediately because it's gonna be a different council when and then.
But you're already an employee, just like lots of other employees, right?
Not the way my contract.
No.
This eliminates that contract and moves me back as a what,
Sure,
correct?
as an employee.
So I move that at the expiration of Lonnie's contract, we keep her as an employee.
Okay, we already have one motion. And a second.
Can I just ask
Yeah.
why you have issues with doing it right now with this employment contract that Denison
Which
hit up?
maybe there was a difference and I didn't pick up that there was a difference as I went through it. This is duplicate. Mayor, I withdraw my previous motion and I'll leave it to somebody else to make a motion.
You withdraw your second.
I withdraw my second.
Okay.
Start over.
I'll take a motion on the it's called the employment contract, but it's taking Lonnie from a contract employee and putting her back as a city employed department head.
A motion to approve the employee contract that moves Lonnie from a contract employee to an employee.
Second.
I'll second that.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Discussion. Tom?
Does this apply only to Lonnie?
Yes.
Can somebody tell me how many contract employees does the city have currently?
2, Lonnie and Jim.
So, those are the only two?
City attorney.
City attorney is, yeah, he's
Oh, well,
contract, but
yeah, okay,
that is,
She can't leave yet.
okay. That's what I just,
okay.
okay, so this what we're talking about right now applies only to Lonnie. That would
Correct.
leave Jim as the only contract employee
You have
at
to
the
be
city. Okay,
updated.
okay.
Any other discussion?
I think that Lonnie's been here, she knows her job very well, I just think we'd be hard pressed to find anyone to do what she does.
No, the only comment I would like to add,
Dave?
the only comment I would like to add is a public apology to both members of staff for a conversation that happened last time that probably shouldn't have occurred in the fashion that it did. So that notwithstanding, but like I said, it was stated at the time, and I'll restate it again, that the conversations had to do with particulars and dots and I's and T's and had nothing to do with performance of any of the employees. And I'd just like to reiterate that we both appreciated. And so those hard conversations, which ideally I'd like to see take place in in a committee council with 3 people in a little bit better environment. But anyway, just as I looked back and reflected upon that meeting and thought, what could we have done differently, or what could I have done differently specifically? I just wanted to follow up that meeting with an apology for the way it went down. Doesn't change any of my points of concern, but again, I thought it could have played out better than it did. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any other comments from the audience?
Just that I support this, and especially this is what Lonnie wants, and I think this is, I think she's an excellent employee, and we're lucky to have her, so I fully support this.
Okay.
I will add that the question that we had actually presented to have follow-up on last time was to get some feedback from other municipalities. I didn't see that in our memo, but I did have opportunity to reach out to a couple of other municipalities, including our own county. And
Can we keep this on?
and the discussion was that not having a contract was the normal and expected thing. So I too support this for that reason. So it did tie into it.
Why are you roundabout? You got it.
Pretty damn directly, I felt, but.
Any other discussion at the table? Discussion from the public. Dennison, do you need to say anything else, or we're good? Better probably not to.
He's like, please.
I'm here to answer any questions you guys have. Absolutely.
Any questions for the city attorney? Okay, do roll call.
Fratelli,
Yes.
Eaton,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie,
Yes.
Westwood.
Yes, welcome aboard.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciation.
New business, ordinance 955, repealing ordinance 732, public hearing. We'll open that up for a public hearing. Public comments. This is the ordinance, we talked about it during the work session, that's repealing ordinance number 732, that's very outdated. Public comment. Close public comment. We'll bring it to the table, I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance number 955, an ordinance of the city of Red Lodge, Montana, repealing city ordinance 732, an ordinance that amended section 2.10.06 of the municipal code of the city of Red Lodge, Montana, to provide a date for the appointment of city officers not otherwise provided for, and amending municipal code Title 1, Chapter 5.
Did I do that right, or is it just first reading?
It's the first reading.
We still do vote.
And she did add first reading if it got missed.
Take a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. Comment at the table. Okay.
I'll just reiterate my thoughts and positions that this is a last minute emergency created in 1987. And so I read it a little bit differently and appreciate, I realize that this will have 2 readings, but I don't read it as a conflict of state law, and in my research, I've not been convinced otherwise, so I don't see it as a conflict or necessity. So, thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
I feel that this is a signal for us to consider some additional human resource help. This and previous vote we took, these are just little bumps in the road, and human resources is such a complicated and convoluted and layer upon layer upon layer of new regulations, fluid regulations, new resolutions, and I think that this fall or next spring, we should have a discussion on having a specialized human resource individual as an employee of the city. We can't ask people to take on so many responsibilities that especially with an area like human resources. I know the county is reaching out, trying to find their own, and I think it's time the city consider that too. For the next year when the budget comes up, I think we ought to allocate for a human resources manager, and I think in the long run, it'll protect the employees, future employees, and the city.
Thank you, Pete. Any other discussion at the table? Discussion from the public.
No.
Kristen?
I wholeheartedly agree with what Pete said. I think that this is a very complicated issue, and I think it has a lot of potential conflicts with the contract that you're, or with the, situation you're dealing with Lonnie. So I think it would be really great to get as much information as possible to make sure that what you're doing isn't making a problem that will arise in the future.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Roll call on first reading.
Curtelli.
Yes.
Eaton.
Yes.
Lyman.
Yes.
Ronnie.
Yes.
Westwood.
No.
Whistler.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 3585, authorizing submission of the CDBG grant application. This is a
Move to approve resolution 3585 to authorize submission of CDBG-CV housing application.
I second that.
discussion at the table.
It's a great opportunity.
It is.
It was a great opportunity. I'm just sad that we lost Joanne before we got to take a vote on it.
I'm sure she'll.
Because I took notes.
She'll get the word. Any other discussion at the table? Discussion from the public. Discussion from the public. Roll call.
Curtelli.
Yes.
Eaton.
Yes.
Lyman.
Yes.
Ronnie.
Yes.
Westwood.
Let me check my notes. Yes, go for it.
Whistler.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 3586, water system revenue bond.
The water system one?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to approve resolution 3586, water system revenue bond.
I'll second that.
Discussion at the table. Discussion at the table. Discussion from the public. Discussion from the public. Roll call.
Curtelli.
Yes.
Eaton.
Yes.
Lyman.
Yes.
Ronnie.
Yes.
Westwood.
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
Resolution 3587, sewer system revenue bond.
I move to approve resolution 3587, sewer system revenue bond.
Second?
Discussion. Discussion at the table. Discussion from the public. Discussion from the public. Roll call.
Curtelli.
Yes.
Eaton.
Yes.
Lyman.
Yes.
Ronnie.
Yes.
Westwood.
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move on to correspondence. We have quite a few in here. We've all included in your packet everything that the city has received. Any other correspondence from the table? Teresa?
Yes, I have received an additional letter that I didn't have forwarded in time for the package. Chief Schrock and Jim Bushnell both responded to the questions that were put forward, concerns about speeding at the north and south ends of town, as well as repainting of a crosswalk up at around 19th across Broadway. And so, great responses, and I appreciate your return
Thank you, ma'am.
addressed to the sender. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other correspondence? About number 11.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Good job.